Trump says he'll issue $2,000 tariff dividends to all.
If they do lower them, they're it's a little inflationary, and Serge actually could speak to that better than I can. But anytime the government just writes checks, I think that's a bad thing, especially when you're dealing with the federal government being so insolvent and having so much debt. So.
Yeah, that could be something you talk about, being insolvent and having where the money could go. But a lot of things could go a lot of places, and I think at this point where people are struggling with money, any money in their pocket's great. And I was actually surprised when I saw it, because I was like, wow, that's a good idea. He's going to use the money from the tariffs that we're making that everyone complains about. He's actually using that against them, saying, oh, well, tariffs are bad for small businesses. Okay, well, if you're a small business that makes under this amount of money, here's $2,000 for it. I guarantee you're not going to be annoyed by it. Yeah, $2,000 is not that much money, which is totally true. Shane is completely right on that. But I think that,
any little bit helps right now because the economy is bad. Everything's expensive. The gas is going up already again.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Part of me is curious if this has to do with Trump wanting to curry some favor with the American people as we're getting closer towards midterms. Maybe this is a check that would be sent out around the time when those elections were occurring. I have no idea.
Come out with a ballot.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to be good for inflation. One thing I will mention is that we were told on air that the $2,000 dividend could come in a lot of forms. It could just be the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So again, this is all from ABC News. Honestly, man, it sounds like they're sort of trying to back their way out of it with that. Well, it could come in the form of no tax on tips or no tax on overtime or no tax on Social Security. Very possible. I have no idea. I think just giving everyone a $2,000 check is probably not a good idea, especially considering how horribly in debt we are. Also, last time we got a stimulus check, we ended up losing like $10,000 in purchasing power on average.
Yeah.
So probably not the best trade.
Short-term trade-offs, I don't like. And he says only for wealthy Americans. What's the definition of wealthy? Does it say in there?
Yeah. I'm curious because he said wealthy, but I don't know if there was any specific cutoff listed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree with what you were saying there, Seamus. Like, if the debt is such a big issue, then it seems like giving out $2,000 to each American might not seem like the best idea. However, telling voters, the electorate, that you'll give them money can incentivize them to support you and your preferred candidates.
Yeah, well,
I do think there's a political aspect to this. I think there's a reason why Andrew Yang's UBI, despite not having any other policy positions on anything and despite being a complete dolt, was able to amass supporters based on what? Me giving you free money. People love free shit. Right. So, Seamus, if you wanted to go around in the room right now and say, hey, do you want $100? Nobody's going to say, oh, but I'm worried about your debt, Seamus, on your mortgage. I'm worried about your family and all the other costs you have.
But my debt is their debt. That's the thing. Exactly. If I'm the government, it's everybody's debt. Like, we're talking here about how a 50-year mortgage enslaves us. Imagine if it was an indefinite loan that all of our children had to pay off and our children's children had to pay off someday and couldn't consent to it. And also it was how we ran our government. Like, that's literally what's happening right now. And we're talking about giving everyone a $2,000 check. I do agree with you that there could be a kind of 4D chess move here. Well, if the Democrats get back into office and Trump can't enact his agenda, the country's destroyed anyway, and they are going to import a bunch of people, and they are going to balloon the national debt regardless. So maybe if we give people these short-term payments to get them to vote for Republicans, and we play the Democrats' dirty game of allowing people to vote themselves gifts from the Treasury, we can actually try to turn the spigot off. I'm a little skeptical of the argument, but I could see the strategy.
It feels to me like it could be a knee-jerk reaction to the uproar over the SNAP benefit issue with the government shutdown too. I mean, it's like, well, how do we get these people back to possibly supporting our party? So, I mean, that's exactly what's happening right now, is that everybody's so mad about SNAP benefits. Those are the people that you are speaking to by offering them, dangling $2,000 out there. Those are the people you're trying to win back.
Do you think $2,000 is going to sway anyone's vote these days, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't.
Absolutely.
It's compared to nothing and what other politicians have done for them.
I think
so the government doesn't touch most Americans, and $2,000 would affect
I don't think
Americans.
leftists will get $2,000 from Trump and change their minds and vote for Trump.
No,
Maybe
of course not. But we're not talking about
maybe
leftists. We're talking
a
about
small amount of Democrats,
I'm against it, by
some
the way.
independents.
Even liberals.
I'm against it, but I don't.
You think it would hurt him?
Here.
I think it only has potential to help his electoral prospects.
It could hurt him if it causes more economic problems. Because at the end of the day, what's going to matter the last 6 months before the election in 2028, and well, actually next year and in 2028, is how people feel about the economy. Right, like if there's civil unrest and there's big riots and blah blah blah, that'll affect people. But if that's not going on, it is the pocketbook, it is the kitchen table issues. So if they do things that make it harder for people to pay for their groceries, and causing inflation will make it harder for people to pay for their groceries. If they do things, if they have policies that do that, people will vote against the Republicans, and that will have that is absolutely the most important thing. We can talk about, and people on the internet, they love to talk about all these niche issues. They're all interested in, like, all sorts of things. The Epstein client list, what Ben Shapiro said, what people are talking about Israel, blah blah blah. Those issues are very important to a very, very narrow segment of the population, right? They're not important to everybody that pays attention to politics. They're important to a small percentage of the people that pay attention to politics. The amount of people that pay attention to politics is also very small, right? Most people don't spend more than an hour or so a week paying attention to politics.
I don't think most Americans knew the government was shut down.
Probably not, but that only leads to my point. Like, people care about, can I go to the grocery store and buy the stuff that my kids want to get so that way they're not bummed out? Can I afford Christmas? Can I afford Thanksgiving? If these questions, right, if you ask these questions and the answer is no, they're going to throw the bums out. That means the Republicans are going to get crucified. So the most important thing is to make sure that the American people feel like they can afford to live.
Right.
And now, because
I completely agree. I think if the focus was on bringing grocery prices down instead of giving people $2,000, I'd be way more in support of it.
Well, I will say this. I agree with what Elaad's saying about the fact that it probably is good politics. I mean, who can argue that you're going to have more trouble winning an election if you just gave people money? You just give them a free $2,000 check. I also think that there's an argument to be made, well, these tariffs did cost the American people to some degree, but it's going to improve America's manufacturing and our ability to deliver products, and we can return some of the money back to the people to stimulate our economy. And in my mind, it makes economic sense to say we're going to protect American industry by making foreign companies pay tariffs, or the people importing from foreign nations pay tariffs, and then give that money back to the American people to bolster our own economy. I'm not disagreeing that this is complicated and that it could on some level be good strategy. I think ultimately it can also help solidify this idea that the shutdown was the Democrats' fault. The reason people weren't receiving their EBT was because of the Democrats, and that Trump is trying to look out for you. He's trying to get your family fed. Again, in the long term, I think it's bad economics. I'm not advocating for it, but I certainly understand the political strategy. And speaking of the shutdown, we have a wild turn of events. Now, you guys are not going to believe this. This is going to be really shocking for all of you at home listening. It's going to be shocking for all the people in this room, so I'm glad we're all sitting in chairs and that Timcast has not done at a standing desk, because I think some of you might faint. Even though the Democrats have been claiming the shutdown was just the fault of Republicans, they are now complaining that the Democrats they elected worked to open the government back up, and they quote-unquote caved. That's strange to me. So, breaking, the Senate moves to reopen the government after Democrats break from Schumer. The question was, does the shutdown further the goal of achieving some needed support for the extension of the tax credit? Our judgment was that it will not. The Senate took a major step towards ending the record-long government shutdown on Sunday as a group of Democrats broke ranks and joined Republicans in advancing a revised plan to reopen federal agencies.
Well, that
Hold on
tells
a
you
second.
that right there.
Yeah. What do you mean broke ranks?
Yeah.
I thought it was you mean all the Republicans didn't break rank to open the government? It's almost like they wanted the government open the entire time, and it was the Democrats preventing it from happening. One of the hilarious things you'll see if you go on social media is all of the leftists whining and complaining about the fact that the government's going to be reopened and saying the Democrats betrayed us, they stabbed us in the back, even though they just spent the entire shutdown telling us the entire thing was the Republicans' fault. So I want to open it up to you guys and get your opinions, and I want you to let me know just how shocked you are that it turns out that this was the Democrats'
Seamus,
fault.
I wanted to ask you, there was one Republican who actually voted to continue the shutdown. Can you guess which one?
Who did that? Which one? One of our good friends?
Shot in the dark. One of your favorites, yeah.
One of my favorites? I'm having too much trouble. I've been too shocked today.
Yeah.
I've already been too shocked today. I need you to just tell me.
The only Republican to vote with Democrats. You know, it's actually a trend of Republicans like this voting with the Democrats. And with Republicans like this, I mean, who needs Democrats? Are you guys seriously clue? Nobody has any.
Who wants
Rand
to
Paul?
Shane, do you want? Yep, exactly. Yep.
Whoever's not a
There we go, it's
neocon,
Rand
whoever's not a
Paul.
neocon that Elaad doesn't like.
I mean, listen. The libertarians going to want the government to stay shut down forever.
I'm
He's
okay with
probably
that. That's what I want. A closed, an open government is as useful as a shutdown.
There was a couple people I had in mind. But so
It was Rand Paul, though, right?
What you
Yeah, it
guys
was
think
Rand
of that?
Paul.
I'm curious what you all think of that. I'm also just curious what you think of the shutdown ending.
I wish it stayed down forever. They weaponized this government against the American people for decades. It needs to be completely gutted.
Doesn't sound like something an establishment guy would say. So
Yeah, I had a change of heart last night. I slept on it, and I was like, I've been wrong completely.
The shutdown, I mean, it's so ridiculous that every year you end up in the same situation where the shutdown is used as, a way for people to pit, the left versus the right and for them to grandstand and to try and get all these publicity points and stuff like that. I mean, I had to travel here yesterday. It was a disaster. I mean, I was lucky. My flight was only delayed about 4.5 hours.
yeah.
There were people that were at the airport. Their flights were delayed 12 hours plus. And I just, I don't understand the correlation between critical infrastructure not being air traffic control and TSA. Why is that not privatized at this point in time? Why is it that when they can't agree on a budget, we shut everything down and then people can't travel?
And they hold you hostage.
And they hold us
literally,
hostage,
And
they don't care. And then why is there no fallback? Why is there no fallback for when you can't agree on a new budget that you fall back to the existing budget?
Well, that's right. And so what always happens is the government shuts down and the left goes, these essential services are lost. And in some ways, I think you're correct when it comes to air traffic control. That's something that we need. And it's strange that the government does it. But then these same people will argue that the government should control more and more and more. So you go, well, even if the government controls like virtually everything, we're still going to have a political system where there are these arguments and disagreements and the government will shut down. And then what's going to happen to all of the services that like you consider to be essential if they aren't considered essential by the government at that time? But furthermore, yes, as someone who's been traveling a lot recently to promote the crowdfunding campaign that I launched for Twisted Plots, like planes have been delayed. Thank goodness my flights, even though some got delayed, none got canceled.
Right.
It's funny. I was in LA. I was in Los Angeles. I was over in California, other side of the flipping continent, right? In the coolest place in the world. And I had to fly back here late at night for a podcast. So this is when a bunch of flights were starting to get canceled. And I was like, dude, if this flight gets canceled, I have no idea what I'm going to do because I am like as far away from here as you can be while still being in the United States. And so thankfully, my flight was not canceled. But this is happening to a lot of people. And so hopefully we're able to get that back up and running as the government's looking to open up. What do you think, Elaad?
I think a minority of Americans fly regularly, so I don't really care.
So you
that
don't
there
care
were some
about
delays.
You
I don't
you
care about rich people
protecting
who can
minorities.
afford
You don't care about
flights
protecting minorities
across
because
the
only minority
country
flies. No, I got
and their
it.
fancy business meetings that they need to attend in person and their important vacations that they need to go on. I haven't flown on a plane in over a year, and I think most average Americans don't. And it is inconveniencing some of the most privileged Americans, and I don't mind doing that for a little bit longer.
I don't
it's
think
ironic,
about-
Shane.
okay,
It's
like, hold
ironic,
on,
Shane, because
hold
now
on.
you're for reopening the government. I thought you were for the
No,
shutdown.
I'm against your idea of only privileged people flying.
Yeah, the fact
I think that's
the way
ridiculous.
they-
I don't think
Elaad
only
just said
privileged
only the
people
privileged.
fly.
You literally just
He
said that.
puts on a suit and then he starts acting like he's better than everybody.
Yeah, like this idea that like blue collar people or average Americans that make, $60, $70, $80,000 a year, like they don't fly regularly. There are plenty of jobs that require people to fly that are not like elitist jobs.
Sure. So I think this affects a minority of workers, and if Seamus has to wait another half hour, who knows? Maybe we would have gotten Tim instead of this guy.
What if
Maybe
my
he wouldn't
flight
have
was
poisoned
canceled?
Tim,
Yeah,
and now
and
we
Tim would
now
have
we
to
have
do-
Seamus instead of Tim. It would have been better if you maybe missed the flight.
While Tim
man.
was sick, you want the man to ruin his voice?
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, he got
He's
sick.
sick.
Yeah, he's sick. He said he couldn't host the show tonight, and I had to. But it was a disaster. It was a nightmare. Now, Elaad, this is also shocking coming from the neocon economist that you would say people in the upper classes whose wealth trickles down to the rest of us through their entrepreneurial vision.
Seamus.
I don't like flying, so
The
I don't
only
mind
planes
them
he
being
wants flying are the
delayed.
ones that drop bombs.
I thought you were going to say something worse, so I guess I'll take that.
I thought he was going
he
there
was going
too.
I wasn't going to
That's
go
the
there.
nicest thing you could have said.
I know.
Anyway, I don't like flying. I'm actually scared of
Obviously.
I reluctantly fly when I have to, and that's why I don't mind these
No
flights being
wonder why you have.
Yeah,
such
no
a
wonder
I have a
crappy
personal
attitude.
beef with
It doesn't affect
flying
you.
in the airport.
Like,
so you
screw
might just have to
people
drive like the
that
rest of
have
us.
to fly. I hate flying, and I'm scared of it. So
You know what's better than
I
a
hope you
short
guys all
flight?
suffer.
A nice long drive.
I agree with you. Listen, if
I'm actually
able
okay
to
with that.
drive,
I do
if-
like driving.
If time permits, I absolutely prefer to
100%.
drive.
Well, either you're sitting in your car or you're waiting online not to get taken off because
No,
the airports
you're-
aren't moving.
If it's
crap.
if the drive is 6 hours or less, do the drive. If it's over 6 hours, take the flight. Because when you think the amount of time that it takes to get to the airport, get through all
and
the
you have to
stuff,
sit there and
do
wait.
the flight, then get out and stuff, that like 5 or 6 hours, it's probably better.
You're already doing dad math. That's exactly how
I mean,
it works.
well,
yeah.
I mean, I live in New Hampshire.
What's going on with the shutdown vote though? Because it's got to go through the House, right? So
After it's passed through the Senate, I think there's some procedural things that need to happen that'll take a few days, and then it'll go to the House, where Johnson should have a majority. I'm assuming Massey, these libertarian types, they just always vote with the Democrats, will also probably vote against, but he will be the token Republican to do so.
yeah.
That's what I foresee.
Was
And
Phil
Rand
was
Paul's
Phil doing that against Elaad or the libertarian types? Okay, I just want to make sure for everyone who might be listening, that was Phil making the farting sound with his mouth against Elaad.
Yeah, these libertarians, he's doing that to me, who's complaining about the libertarians getting in the way of the MAGA agenda. Yes.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.